Sorry about that. That was odd. I wasn't quite ready. Wasn't quite ready to keep going, but now I'm back. So we're live today. We are going to push through. I don't care how many kids show up. If we have 5 kids, if we have 3 kids, if it's just Kathy, then I probably won't do it. But either way, I'm going to keep doing this, and we're going to keep chugging along to see how far we can go. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. Wasn't pleased with yesterday's stream. Didn't like how it went. Just being creative, I didn't like it. So I'm going to have to ignore you for probably the better part of the first half of the stream. I'm not going to look at the chat at all. I got to kind of chug through things. I want to get through the lesson the way I want it to, and then we can go, we can kind of get to where we want to be in terms of what the stream would look like. So we're going to go ahead and chug through this first, and what we're going through is we're going through the Industrial Revolution today. We have to go back and look at the fact that we talked about the westward expansion. We talked about manifest destiny, this concept that we should control everything from sea to shining sea, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. But the problem with that is, how do we get there? How do we get to the other side? If we remember from Lewis and Clark, it took 18 months round trip from Missouri to Washington. That was insanely far. But what we ultimately want to do is we want to look at how did we develop as a country technologically to meet that challenge. Now, because of the way the unit works, when we talk about manifest destiny, we went over the Gadsden Purchase, and the Gadsden Purchase is, the whole point is we bought that tiny little sliver of land in southern Arizona so that we can connect the railroads. But the problem is, in our class, we haven't even talked about how did the railroads even get there? How did it even exist? How did we even get to that point? Now, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the assignment that has been posted in Schoology, if you haven't looked. I also looked at the fact that when you guys submitted your assignments, I'm going through those today. So if you have not posted yet, you have until 11:59 p.m. tonight. But I'm going to go ahead and start grading the ones that are already in. So make sure you go ahead and get that started. You guys are grading a project today. Baby project, little project. Now, here's the thing. Being that I am ignoring the chat doesn't mean I don't see what's in the chat. So it's probably a bad idea to go through this. I would strongly listen to some of the people who are saying, keep what you say in check. I'm just trying not to look at it so that I don't become distracted. It makes it a lot more difficult. Now, when we go through here, when we're talking about the Industrial Revolution, we're looking at the spinning jenny, the creation of the cotton gin, the steam engine, locomotive, telephone. That's how we're going to get to this point. This is a little bit of a long PowerPoint. Now, typically when we had class, we would probably do a PowerPoint over the course of 2 days, maybe 3 days. Except we're going to do this entire 33-point slide today. And the PowerPoint is already available in Schoology. So if you don't feel like taking notes and you just feel like listening to my unfortunate voice go through all of these things, then just go ahead and listen. And that's how we're going to do it. Now, on this note, here's what I need. I need you guys to kick back, relax, enjoy. Don't worry about who's here, who's not. You guys go back and watch the video. Make sure you're letting your other classmates know that this is up and that this is a possibility. All the assignments still need to be submitted and turned in and done. That's our attendance for the day. This is how we do this. Okay? Now moving on. Let's go ahead and cut over to the PowerPoint station. Whoop, whoop. Oop, sorry. And we're back. Okay, sorry. Still getting used to these things. Now, let's take a look. We're talking about the Industrial Revolution. This is this point era. Now, if you recall, under Thomas Jefferson, Andrew Jackson, the goal was to create an agrarian society, a society in which agriculture was the basis for all things in the United States. This is how we're going to make our money. This is how we're going to develop as a nation. We're going to go ahead and try to develop this country based on our farmers. It's the way that we can make sure the common man gets paid. However, as time moved on and new technologies would arise and things would develop and people wanted access to manufactured goods, because let's keep in mind, if you were to make a shirt, let's just say, in this case, Maddie sewed shirts. Okay, she could probably, and if she was really good at it, maybe make a shirt every 2 hours or so. Okay, so in a reasonable work day, or even in a reasonable work day of, let's say, 16 hours, she could make 8 shirts in a day. Well, when the spinning jenny wasn't created, and when we had other manufactured, when you have other types of machines that would be created, you could make 300 to 400 shirts in a day. And what would that do to the price of the shirt? Well, being that it took, Maddie several hours to make each individual shirt, that would make the shirt more expensive. But if you can make shirts, boom, 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 real fast, price goes down. Okay? So we're going to take a look. We're going to go over here, and we're going to get started. So, boop, click, click. There we are. And the Industrial Revolution, this would change the rest of the world because, as we know today, manufacturing in the United States is pretty much plummeted because other countries do that mostly nowadays. We're a service-based industry. But this is how the United States developed into a world superpower, is through the creation of manufacturing chains and factories. Now, we're looking in. Boop, 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 boop. Industrial. So if we don't know what the word industrial means, we're going to figure that out now. It means having to do with industry, business, or manufacturing. Okay? Now, revolution, of course, it has multiple meanings, but the one we're looking for is a huge change or change in the way things are done. So we think of the American Revolution, it was a complete change in how our government was run and all those fun things. And last but not least, so when we put the two words together, a change from making things by hand to making things in factories is a change in the way things were done. And it created large businesses. It almost it segmented the country into having these large corporations, which is what we now see today. When people think of the Industrial Revolution, this is the picture that kind of pops up, okay? If you look over here, it doesn't look great. Smokestacks, a barren wasteland of just train tracks and large factories. And part of this was one of the necessary evils in creating these large-scale production systems. Now, one of the things that many of you probably don't even notice, and I'm sure most of you didn't notice this because most of you don't pay attention to anything, is this. Now, if you look at where the biggest cities in the country are, okay, go ahead and tell me in the chat. I'll wait a few seconds. Go ahead and tell me in the chat, where do you find the largest cities in the world? What are they usually located next to? I'll give you a couple seconds. Oh, man, we just dropped 3 people from... They realized, we are learning today. This is not good. You did not start off just joking, wheeling and dealing, playing around, eating food. I mean, I do have food. I have candy, but that's beside the point. Oh, yeah. Oh. All right, so it's been about 20 seconds, so we should be seeing something pop in the chat. The sea, says Hudson Knapp. I like that. The sea. Water, Connor. You know, it says on water, ports, New York. That's an example of the sea. I agree with you. Water, 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 water along the coast. Water, 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 water. Awesome. Water. Ports, water, water, water. Beaches. Close to water. Water, water. Oh, hello, Alexander. I didn't see you in there. Oh, look, it's Allie. Funny. All right. Large oil reserves and water. Oh, Norman, you always have to go very specific. But he's right. You'll typically find them near large oil reserves. Not in the very beginning, but nowadays, yeah. Okay, so water seems to be the common answer. Clearly someone agrees with Norman. I believe that's a leaf. Taking a shot in the dark. And you would need to buy water. Now, there's multiple reasons as to why. Many of you probably know. A lake. Well, this is water. Well, it depends if you're like Chicago or the Great Lakes. Now, I don't know why, and I don't think of that. But the reason why they're located on water is for 2 reasons. First off, shipping is the key. If you can manufacture goods near water, then you could go ahead and put them on a boat and send them where they need to go right away. It limited the amount of shipping costs and things like that. So being on water is beneficial for the ports and the industry of the things that you're manufacturing going to wherever they need to go. So that was a huge factor. But the other reason is, many of these, this is back before environmental protection was even an idea. They didn't realize it needed protecting. You need to go ahead and send things out to... You need to go ahead and send all of your runoff, all of your excess, what do we call, what's left after the manufacturing, all that nasty gunk that needed to get out was usually put into the lake or into the river or into an ocean, and all your factory runoff needed to go somewhere, and in water was the perfect place to go. So now, before this, how did we actually make clothes? Because one of the things is nowadays kids can just go shopping and buy a whole bunch of shirts. And they need to go buy. If you guys want to go buy clothes, you can just go to, like, I don't know, wherever you guys go, Hollister, PacSun, American Tent Rental, wherever we can find our clothes. Now, when we go to get clothes, when we had to make clothes, you actually had to make them yourself, which was pretty difficult. But back in 1764, a man by the name of James Hargreaves reduced the amount of work needed to produce yarn. Now, remember, you can make string, but you have to actually put it together and weave it together in order for it to actually be beneficial. Now, with a worker able to work about 8 or more spools at once, this actually made the process of making yarn, which you needed to make clothes, much faster. Now, eventually we get the spinning wheel. Now, the spinning wheel was the first invention, but it was very slow, and threads were spun one at a time by hand. So that meant any shirt that you made was cumbersome and time wasting, if you will. Time consuming, that's the word. So we're having 4 different ideas going in my head at the same time. You may have seen this in, like, old movies and things like that. But we don't use these anymore. This would be something very, very traditional. But this would mean that the cost of a shirt would be so much higher than everything else, mostly down to the fact that, well, it took longer to make. Now, when it comes to transportation, on the other hand, how do we get things around? And now, for a long time, it was, well, how fast do you walk? And how strong is your horse, or number of horses, or oxen? That's how we would pull. Okay? Before cars, planes, and buses, how do we get around? Well, not very fast at all. Feet and horses. And if you ever wondered why we judge the power of a car by horsepower, if you look over here, that's why. Okay, your cart or car, if you will, was pulled by a horse. If you ever wonder why we call them cars, is because actually when the first automobile was invented, technically in France of all places, but it was called a horseless carriage. And if you take the term carriage and shrink it down, you have car, which is why the carriage on a train, we call them train cars. And that's why we drive cars. So, boom, you just learned something new today. Okay, and also, your feet was probably the most effective method. Most people back in, let's say, the Middle Ages would probably never leave any more than 20 miles away from the place they were born. It was very rare to actually move around and go places because transportation was dangerous and difficult to make. Okay? Now, when it comes to transportation, before the Industrial Revolution, people relied on the horse and their own feet to get around. Probably why everyone was thinner back then. Oh, that's it for this slide. I forgot. This one's a little quick. But we're going to invent things that would eventually make large-scale manufacturing possible. Because let's be honest, and for those of us who are keeping up with current events, this is probably kind of important. Everyone's wondering, why is gas prices plummeting? And they are, okay? Because as someone who drives and someone who has to pay for gas, you're going to come to the realization that gas prices are crazy low right now. I think I saw up in Brandon for $1.69 a gallon, when as recently as January we were paying $2.40, $2.50 a gallon. So it's dropped $1 a gallon, and some experts are saying it might tip below $1 a gallon, which is great. But at the same time, under all these quarantine rules, we really can't go anywhere. So what's the point of having gas? So the reason why gas prices are partially going down, one of the factors, there's lots of different economic models and reasonings as to why this is going on, specifically because of a oil price battle between Russia and Saudi Arabia. But that's beside the point. But one of the big factors is that in Russia they went up. True, because Saudi Arabia undercut everybody and boop, dropped the price of gallons on everywhere else in the world. However, one of the big factors is if you are producing oil, and the consumption of that oil, okay, and the consumption of that oil is diminishing, what are you going to do with all the oil that you're producing? Where do you put it? You have to store it, okay, because not everybody's buying it. Okay, it's supply and demand. So right now, the world is actually starting to run out of places to put all this extra oil because we're producing it, but not as many people are using it. So the price is ultimately going to come down because there's such an excess and they're trying to get rid of it. Okay, now that's a little bit of economics lesson 101. But here's the problem. Back then, if you didn't have the means, They can inflate the oil market anytime they want. That is true. I am breaking my own little rule here and popping in on the comment a little bit. But at the same time, they can, but it doesn't financially make sense for them. But in this case, they want to try to make as much money as possible in a time where people are not driving. But here's the thing. So you can have these factories produce large-scale amounts of stuff. Okay, they can produce textiles like fabric for furniture and wooden clocks, whatever it is that they're making. You can produce all these things. But if you can't get it to people, if you can't get that wooden clock or that fabric, that furniture, that whatever, to the consumer, you're just building a huge pile of wooden clocks and you can't sell them anywhere, right? But if you don't have the power to transport that much of a material or an item and get it to people in a timely manner, there's no point in producing them. So the ability to create a large-scale manufacturing system and create faster, efficient transportation systems have to go at the same time. So when James Watt in 1769 creates the steam engine, it could power machines automatically and led to the development of moving vehicles. You're creating the possibility of a transportation item that can go without ever stopping, right? Human beings will eventually pass out if they walk too far. If you have a horse can only go so far until it gets exhausted. As long as you have a crew of people dedicated to shoveling in coal and producing hot enough steam inside of a steam engine, you can keep that thing going longer periods of time, and you can make it more and more powerful. Thus, you're now creating more modern types. So what would we find the steam engine in? Well, you're going to find them in an abundance of things, right? So if we look at a picture of the original steam engine, oh, isn't that cute, right? We all got to start somewhere. It's kind of like looking at a picture of something you drew when you were in third grade, or something that Kathy drew like yesterday. Just kidding. Kathy's talented at art. I have her painting hung up in my classroom, which I can't even go to. At least it's better than Maeve's. Now, eventually, we're going to say, well, what can we do? What can we do with the steam engine aside from just delivering items place to place? Well, let's think back to Manifest Destiny. We want to get people moving out west so they can start up their businesses and farms and all that fun stuff, and so we can make as much money as possible, right? Why not carry people? Right? These things aren't practically built for this, so we can just carry people. Now, I would like you guys to take a quick shout out. How many of you would be willing to ride on this train over a bridge which doesn't have any walls or doors? Literally, all it takes is one big bump and everybody goes. Okay? Now, if you think about it, this kind of looks like the Magic Kingdom mine train. That would be horrifying if this was the only means of transportation. But this would allow you to get from one place to another fairly quickly. And you can't be upset by that, right? That would be ideal for everybody to do this. So you can start moving people out west in greater numbers quickly. And that would in a very, very helpful way expand the population. So if you think about this, prior to this technology, so if we go back just a second, just to give me my original date here, 1769 was when the original steam engine came up. But the modern locomotive wasn't quite there yet. If you think about it, in 1849, or 1848 technically, as we learned, we went through the California gold rush. In a year, you got 100,000 people out there. In 1 year. Now, if you keep that in mind, if you think about it in 1804, got to be accurate here. In 1804, it took Lewis and Clark, a group of 40 people, almost a year to get from Missouri to Washington. And then flash forward 40 years later into the future, it took a year to get 100,000 people out here. And into California, make it a very quick state to get to. Okay? Now, eventually, they start to look more and more like the trains that we think of, right? This looks more like that looks like the train of Magic Kingdom. That's so cute. But eventually, it gets to this point, okay? We're going to see that these trains are going to become more and more complex and more developed as technology gets there. And one of the biggest things that transportation has done for our world entirely, okay, and this is something that a lot of a lot of people at your age at least don't realize is that transportation actually allowed science and other types of technology to expand way faster, and it mostly has to do with the time it took to get ideas from one place to another. Okay, so like for example, I have an idea. I love donuts. A friend of mine loves cupcakes. Then what I saw is that he took a cupcake and placed it inside of a donut. And I was like, oh my God, that's why the hole is in the donut's there. I just take the little cupcake and place it inside the donut. And now you have what I call a cupcake planet because it's like Saturn with a ring around it, except the ring is a donut. Now, go with me here. Go with me. Now, what you do is you take that cupcake planet and you place it on top of an ice cream mountain, and boom, you have something worth doing. Now, that's an example of how information got from one place to another, and then I merged them together and created something magical and wonderful, and I just realized I need to find my insulin shot. This isn't good. Ooh, I feel the sweats. Now, on that note, though, but what I'm ultimately trying to say is now that people can move from place to place faster, ideas can be spread faster, and those ideas can be put together and create new technologies and new ideas, which is why very quickly in our world modern day with instant communication, whereas I can pretty much call anybody at any given time. I can call anybody at any given time and talk about something on the other side of the planet. And if I really had to, well, not anymore, I guess, because now we can't fly anywhere. But if I had to, back in 2019, the good old days, I could get on a plane from Tampa and fly to the other side of the planet within 20-something hours. Okay? And if we think back, way back, many moons ago, back in 2019, when times were great, we were talking about people like Ferdinand Magellan, the first Portuguese sailor to circumnavigate the globe. Remember, he didn't even make it. He died in the Philippines. But it took him 3 years to go all the way around the world. 3 years to go all the way around the world. We can knock it out in a day. Okay? So technology has allowed the spread of information to go faster. So thank goodness for the Industrial Revolution. Now the power loom. That sounds exciting. It sounds much more exciting than it really is. Okay? Now, with the invention of the spinning jenny and the power loom, the textile clothing industry took off. Okay? Which is an odd phrase for clothes. Now, clothes could now be made far faster than ever before, which does something very specific. It makes it far cheaper than it ever was before. Kind of a gross idea. Thought about it. Just think about it, though. Back in the old days, people didn't have that many pairs of clothes. Okay? You might have about two different outfits. You have your regular clothes, and then you'd probably have your church clothes. And that was about it. And shoes, don't get me started on shoes. We've had that conversation where one of the biggest things that people still left the bodies of the dead during wars was shoes because they were so expensive and they were difficult to come by. One, and then two, the shoes were always the same shape, so that way if you lost one shoe, you can just get another shoe to replace it instead of having to get a left shoe and a right shoe. So that worked out well. Oh gosh, there's I see space-time compression in the chat. This is not good. We're going metaphysical here. We may end up with one of our weird mind-bending time conversations. Let's not do that. Now, invented by Edmund Cartwright in 1797, the power loom allowed us to quickly expand the ability to create clothing and other textiles much faster. So let's take a look. Now, the power loom used water power to weave cloth, and people could make a lot of cloth quickly, which, let me put that back up, which is good, but it had a couple of things that made it a little difficult. And let's be fair. Now, we've talked about one of the problems with the Industrial Revolution was it was a very rapid. It's like when we figure something out and we kind of go with it and we go like this pretty much this entire stream and digital schooling system. We kind of just go with it. And we put our sights set really, really high, but we just can't make it. Okay, it goes just a little far, and we start to do things, and then we realize, well, that's problematic. That doesn't work too well. That's not great. That's not good. And this is kind of what happened here, and a lot of it had to do with workers' rights, which, let's be fair, workers' rights is like Mr. Robinson diet. It doesn't exist. Well, at least it didn't exist back then, and unlike the diet thing, it exists now. Back in the old days, factories didn't know what were the limitations you could have for your worker. Now, if you think about it, if you the average workday back then, you would work for 6 days a week, easy, and many would work anywhere between 10 and 16 hours a day. So if you lived in, let's say, New York City at the turn of the 20th century, so the 1900s, it was not very, it wasn't rare to see that someone was working 6 days a week for 14 hours a day. Okay? And not only that, but children were working many of these hours as well. Children would also work. And the thing about the power loom is that in order for it to weave back and forth, there's this little thing called a shuttle that would go boom, 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 right across the screen. We used to saw it right across the loom. And the problem is sometimes it would get jammed. Children, you guys in particular, actually much younger than you, many of these children would be between the ages of 5 and 8. Their job was to go and reach into the loom if it got jammed and pull it out. Here's a problem. That thing moves really quickly. And if they unwedged it and it moved, it could easily take off a hand. Or at least severely mangle that hand. And back then, if you lost your hand, nowadays, if you got injured on the job, let's say I'm teaching and I fell on a desk or broke my leg or whatever, it's called workman's comp. Okay? However, the triangle factory fire, exactly. This is exactly what the triangle factory fire. Thank you, Hudson. That is an example of what happened back then in many of these factories. This was much more common than you realize. There's actually something... We used to take the 8th graders on a field trip to watch these plays, and it was the same play every single year. And one of the plays was called The Monkey's Paw. Maybe you guys read about it. I don't know. You probably read it. If you're in English 1 Honors, you may have read it in like October. The Monkey's Paw was about someone who got a monkey paw, and it gives you 3 wishes, but they always turned out to be cursed. The monkey's paw, in this particular case, one of the kids gets killed in the factory when asking for more money. And then when, the dad wished, hey, can I get, I wish I could have 20,000 pounds so I could pay off this house. And so the next day the kid goes to the factory and dies in the factory. And then the kid gets, so what happens is that the family gets a compensation for the kid's death. And it was for 20,000 pounds, something like that. Or maybe he did in 6th grade. Okay. Now, if you think about it, that was quite common. I mean, there's a book called The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. It talked about in a meat packing plant in Chicago, people would sometimes get their hands caught in the machinery or fall into the machinery, and so that meant there might the possibility of be human parts in your hamburger, so it would be a hand burger. Oh, man. I hope they're not selling chicken fingers. But the problem is, all those things were unregulated. The government didn't really look into it because all these things were coming up so fast. It's kind of like how the internet was in the last decade or so. It was kind of like the Wild West. People just did whatever they wanted. You had the black markets coming around on the dark web and all that kind of stuff going. Not the Jungle Book. The Jungle, book. Okay? Now, in this case... a lot of it was uncontrolled, but it caused massive development. But these factories gave a lot of people in cities more and more jobs, which is why to this day, if you look at the landscape of our country and most countries around the world, cities are your heavily urban. The urban population was heavily there. Okay, you have these large numbers of people living in these cities. They work in factories, and whereas you're out in the West, out in the country, in the Midwest, you have a lot more farms where. Population density is much looser, so you have a lot less people. Now, if these don't look like dangerous equipment to you, go ahead and put a hands up in the chat if you can see how somebody's going to lose a hand in one of these machines. This looks dangerous. Okay, I don't know if you can see my mouse here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you can. See this thing? This thing would be moving very quickly. Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Imagine if you have to reach your hand in there to get it, to stop it. Yeah, that's going to be painful. Okay? Now, the cotton gin, this is fundamental in Southern agricultural technology. And it has this weird notion. And I'm thinking about making a discussion board, but this would be for later in the year now that news broke. We're here till May, so let's knock this out. My thought is this. The cotton gin has this weird ominous history because it fits with slavery, because in this case, one of the most common places that you'd find slaves in the American South was on cotton plantations, and there's a good reason why. And we talked about that back when we did the Southern Colony region. We know now that cotton is a very difficult plant to go and pick and get to, because one, it's low to the ground, it's like a bush. So that's why when your parents say, no, you think money grows on trees, you can say no, but it does, because cotton is found in your currency. You can say no, but it does grow in a bush. So then they can, take your stuff away. But that's cool. And then I'll have less viewers. Now, that being said, cotton's very difficult to produce. One, it grows low on a bush, so you have to hunch over and get it. It's grown in very warm and hot climates, and it's prickly, and it's full of seeds that you have to pick out to get to it, and it's covered in little thorns. It is not the most fun experience possible. Now, it allowed cotton to be cleaned and had the seeds move quickly. This caused the need for more labor to pick cotton, and that's the kicker. So some people are like, well, you won't need as many slaves because in this case, it's easier to produce cotton. Wrong. It just means you can make more of it quickly. So it actually greatly expanded the need for slavery in the South during that time, and we saw the influx of slave importation into the United States expand greatly after 1794 with the creation of the cotton gin. Money does grow on trees because money is paper. However, in this case, it's not actually made of paper. It's actually made of, because that comes from trees, yes. But money actually has cotton sewn into it, and cotton comes from bushes. So money is trees. That is true. If you chop down a cherry tree, you can probably buy groceries with it. Or at least you can threaten someone to give you the groceries with it, because you'll hit them with the same thing. Okay? Now, cotton gin. See how simple it is? Look at that. Now, in the cotton factory in this particular case, oh man, so much damage. Now, if you notice, one of the things you probably noticed here, if you looked at the last couple pictures of these factories, I want you guys to go ahead and tell me in the chat, who do you see mostly working in a lot of these power looms and working in these factories at this time? And it's going to seem odd to you, but there's probably a good reason to it. And it's similar to the thing I said with the kids. Who do you notice is typically working in these factories? And it's not children. That was your hint. But it's not necessarily children. So while I go ahead and get a drink real quick, I will let you guys discuss who do we typically see working in these factories. Okay, so I did try to get something to drink, and then now everybody's picking on Kathy. You guys gotta stop being mean to her. She went for it. She took a 50-50 shot and missed. Happens all the time. It's actually, Kathy, you blind. Nice, Connor. Nice. If you said women, you would be correct. And women typically worked in these factories at the time. Ooh, focus. Women typically worked in these factories at the time for good reason. And part of it was, for a long time, it was really difficult for women to find jobs. And part of that had to do with the kind of training needed to go into some of these jobs. And one of the things is that factories, people who worked in factories were what we called unskilled labor. What we mean by unskilled labor is that it didn't take a lot of education, training, what have you, to actually become somebody who could work here. So honestly, you show up, they teach you after a day, and you figured it out. Back in the old days, in the 1700s, 1800s, women typically could not take on a profession. So let's just say, in order to become a smith, if you don't know what a smith is, it's someone who works with metal. It depends on what type of metal. If you're a goldsmith, coppersmith, etc. Right? Being a cooper. If you didn't realize, cooper is actually a name. is not just a name, but it's actually the name of a type of job. If you were a cooper, you were someone who makes barrels. If you were a smith, you're someone who works with metal. If you're a miller, you're someone who grinds down grain. So all these things have names, and in order to have those things, you don't usually have to take on an apprenticeship. And back in the old days, when things were far more male centric, you would not, if you were a woman, you would usually not be allowed to take on that type of apprenticeship. So when factories opened up and they just needed unskilled labor, hey, I need you to go ahead and run this through this machine. I don't care who you are, just do it. Children, women had much more access to industry jobs and things like that. We're starting to see women in the workplace far more becoming more common. So nowadays, clearly things have changed. Women can grow up and do whatever they want to be and be whatever they want to be and move on. But back then, this was the first step toward women actually being a part of the working place and in the industry. So let's kind of go back to what we were talking about here. Let's head back to the PowerPoint. Whoop. Now, what we're going to see, though, is that women being in the workplace allowed for the expansion of men getting more what we would call the skilled labor jobs. This would be heavily influenced by steel. Now, the problem with the railroads back in the old days was this. If you look at the fact that trains were super unreliable for the fact that the metal that they would ride on, those rails, wouldn't last very long because they weren't very strong. They'd become damaged, warped, and then over time, a lot of the train tracks that you would lay would no longer be there. Okay? So Henry Bessemer, and around, we don't have the exact date, but it's about 1856 is kind of given time, could produce steel that was strong and cheap, which would be made to use large buildings and bridges and things like that. And that's, again, why the skyscrapers that we see in modern day are far more useful because of the fact that, you can only build so high because certain types of men are only so strong. So we see that the production of steel would become far more capable. And, of course, the most important, cheap to make. Smokestacks of a factory. As you can see, a lot of the exhaust and runoff coming from these factories made air conditions in many of these places much worse. We modern day call it smog. It's usually not great. But what jumped things to the next level, and it was funny because for a long time, electricity then was like 5G now. People thought electricity was the devil. It was going to kill everybody, and it made everybody sick. Turns out, yes, electricity can kill you if you touch it. That's not great. But at the end of the day, they thought that this was becoming a problem. So when we think about 5G, people think, oh, it's going to cause cancer. All these waves are hitting us and hitting us and hitting us and causing all these problems. We don't know yet. Science will kind of air that out in the future. However, what we do know is, back in the old days, people felt the same way about electricity. The idea that they're going to have electricity running through the streets and lighting up all of our towns and their streets, that scared people. It was horrifying to them. They thought, we're just letting the silent killer in to come in and invade our homes. But it turned out that electricity is probably the most important thing that most of you utilize and have and you take for granted on a daily basis. Now, the electric light would kick in. Now, can you imagine living life without light? Without electric light, right? For some of us, oh my God, girl, I could totally live simply on Bath and Body Works candles. Seriously, I would light my entire house and it would smell like an apple orchard mixed with a cinnamon waffle cone. It would be delicious. Okay, but that's not necessarily the point. What I'm trying to make is, could you imagine living without electric light? Okay? Could you do that? That's a big challenge, right? That's pretty challenging if you think about it that way. But at the end of the day, whoop, whoop, whoop. We'll just keep it there. Sorry. That's what happens when you play a little too much. Could you imagine what life would be like without this light? Because Thomas Edison, finally a name many of you probably recognize. Thomas Edison invented the electric light around 1878. So keep in mind, electric light has only been around for 150 years or so. That's actually not that long comparative to the rest of human history. Okay? Thomas Edison also invented many other things. Edison's known as this great inventor and someone who constantly had a fight with Nikola Tesla. Let's we'll leave that for another time. But he also invented the phonograph in 1877. He kind of got into a whole bunch of different things. Minimalists. I simply survive in a room with a mattress on the floor, one plate, and a candle. That is all. Funny word. This is actually an SAT word. If you want to describe someone who lives that way, another word for minimalist would be no, he didn't. Okay? Now, if you want to actually know what the word would be for someone who's a minimalist, you could say they are Spartan. Yes, I know you're thinking we are Sparta, kick someone into a hole. But if you want to talk about... I understand the difference between AC, ACD, the different types of currents, if you will, AC and DC and all that fun stuff. Okay. But ultimately what we're saying is, not to get distracted. If someone is Spartan, it simply means they are able to live without most. Because back in the old days in ancient Greece, the Spartans were known to use very few words and live with very few luxuries. So if someone is laconic, it means they speak very very succinctly. Fancy word for saying they only use a very few words to say what they need to say. Clearly, I am not laconic. I use a lot of words to say a very little bit amount of things. But at the same time, if you are Spartan, it means you can live without most. So, boom. You just got SAT'd. Now, Thomas Edison... Love the post. Love the pose. Shows like, man, he's just thinking. He's just thinking. Now, let's see. What does the electric light do? It allows us to see at night. Hooray. Awesome. We can see at nighttime, guys. Thank you for the electric light. It allows us to see at night. Now, it could automatically... Now, what would the phonograph... This one's pretty important for you guys. It could automatically play music that people could listen to in their homes. I want you to think about this because a lot of you think of, what would it be like without electric light? Well, that means just open a window and use sunlight, right? Or light a candle. Think back, before the phonograph. Oh, come on, Norman. We're just helping you. Okay? If you think about it, there was a time in the world when people weren't able just to listen to music all the time. And it was actually rare to listen to music. You'd only hear music once in a very great amount of time. Okay? That was... If you think about it that way, it's kind of odd. I mean, most of you listen to music all the time. Even when you don't mean to. Sitting in the house, Bay News 9 is on, has the little background music. Listen to a commercial. Get in the car and listen to the radio. You didn't listen to music at home unless someone sang or played music for you. That's weird. And the phonograph, which looks like our record player, would be something that you would be able to listen to music to. So it allowed us to go ahead and have access to music that we normally would not have seen, or not have heard. Okay, and so music became far more prevalent, and more and more people made music, and now we have Lil Pump. So thank you, Thomas Edison, for Lil Pump. But more importantly, along with the phonograph, we come across the telegraph. And the telegraph is ultimately important, invented by Samuel Morse. Hey, that sounds familiar. Okay, at the beginning there was no music, then came iPod Touch. Guys, there was iPods before iPod Touch, okay? That's just embarrassing. I was in college when iPod Touch came out. That sounds like old, antiquated technology. Man, I had a tape player. Now, Samuel Morse, if that sounds familiar, you probably heard of Morse code. Leo says hi again. Hi, Leo. Now, invented by Samuel Morse in 1844, the telegraph used dots and dashes to send messages over electric lines. These dots and dashes became known as Morse code. Okay, so they're able to send information from one place to another using a series of dots and dashes and all that fun stuff. And you were able to communicate back and forth. Now, you'd have to have someone who understood Morse code to be able to go ahead and decipher what was being said. But this is your first instance of long-distance communication. So, yes, this was text messaging before text messaging was cool. Now, boom, you guys can learn a little bit of Morse code. You see... dot dash is A, dash dot 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 is B, dash dot is C, dash dot dot is D, dot is E, and you would eventually use all these, and you'd have to spell out all of your words. Also, you'd have dash 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 to make a ch sound, and so it's mostly based on sounds, not by letters. Okay, so this was how we text messaged back in the old days. You can see what it looked like to actually sit there and do this. You'd have to sit and listen to it, and you have to listen very carefully. But now, most importantly for you guys, is the invention of the telephone. Now, the telephone, Alexander Graham Bell, my man. Okay? Now, he invented it in 1876 and allowed us to communicate with others more easily because we can use our voice. Okay? Again, this only makes me wonder as an old person, why do we text people when I can talk to you long distance with my voice instead of having to sit there and type things out? God, it's a waste of time. Now, Alexander Graham Bell invented the first telephone. Clearly, I would love to walk around with this in my pocket, okay, because that would look totally cool. But can we all acknowledge his beard, okay? Beard check, beard success. Man, I wish. Look at this thing. Epic, okay? That is wonderful. But with the invention of the telephone, it allowed for information and ideas to be expanded out far more quickly. It allowed us to be able to transmit ideas and concepts and keep in touch with people from long distance. It would allow for the transmission of new ideas and inventions. And as we can tell, from 1900 to now, technology has rapidly expanded in the course of 120 years. If you think about it, 120 years ago, you would have to take a boat, and it would take weeks to go to Europe. Nowadays, you can get on a boat, or you get on a plane, and you can be in, well, not anymore, but you can be in Europe in about 5 hours. So things have changed dramatically with technology, and the Industrial Revolution played a significant role in it. Okay. Oh, we got a couple more. I forgot about Rockefeller. Oil. Oh, the big baddie, the one that we need most. His chin shaking. Weird. All right, now, here's the thing. John D. Rockefeller became the richest man in the world in the oil business. Oil is king. He created the Standard Oil Company in 1870, and oil began being used in all types of machines like cars and trains and etc. But then comes, we're getting a little further than I probably would have done, but let's just finish this out. Let's go with it. Henry Ford invented the first practical car. Now, let me go ahead and pause here because he did not invent necessarily the first practical car. What he really invented was the first massively scaled and mass-produced car. Okay, he created the first car that could be built on a line that would be built quickly, efficiently, and fast. So he can, the production line would be kind of coined and created, and eventually you could be able to create these cars in a matter of hours as opposed to days, which, like we said with shirts, when you're able to make more cars quickly, the cost of the car drops because, you know, the amount of work and time that goes into that car diminishes. Hold on. Dude. There we go. Seems a little close to my face. The production line. There you go. Now, the Wright brothers, you guys probably learned about them in school. They came up with the first concept plane in 1903. The flight lasted only about 12 seconds. But hey, we all got to start somewhere, man. There was a time when I was only eating like 3 Waffle House waffles at a time. I just had like 9 just a minute ago. Had a pregame snack for lunch. So, ultimately, gang, boop, boop, boop. And this is where we get to. Now, let's go back to the big screen. I did that very quickly. I tried to go through this quickly. You guys have more time to sit and look through the PowerPoint. I'm going to take these off for a minute. Ooh. Whew, you haven't seen my eyes in a few days. That's all right. So, I'll take my hat off. Oh, see the light shining on the top of my head. It's gross. So, what we're going to be doing is this. Well, you guys are going to create an advertisement for me. You guys are going to create a newspaper advertisement selling your line of one of these pieces of technology that we're creating. But there's going to be a little bit of a boundary, okay? Let's not create a new car. Let's not create a new airplane. That's a little bit too far into the future. I'll go back into Schoology and update this to make sure it's a little bit more clear. I don't want new cars and new planes. And but what you need to do is you need to feature all the main points of information. You tell me who created it, when it was created, why is it useful, how is it helpful for expanding American power, etc. So what you're ultimately doing is you're creating a little newspaper advertisement, 200-word minimum. That's nothing, guys. It's a little bit. You're going to need to write some things to describe anyway. You can use pictures. It's going to be uploaded to Schoology, and you have until Sunday night. Okay? You have till Sunday night to turn this in. So that is necessary. That is the big project of the week. That is the large homework assignment of the week. The rest of the week, we're probably going to have some discussion board things. Tomorrow, we're going to kind of go over, I'll probably kind of just quickly go over with you guys what we kind of went over today. Clearly, whoa, man, numbers are just dropping because they think this is over. It's not done yet. We're not even finished. So that's whatever. They'll miss out. That's what we were going to be talking about today, specifically when it came to the Industrial Revolution. But can we do a video? A conference call? We could do a conference if we would like to. You're going to have to let everybody know because out of my 120-something kids, I only have 34 in here. So it'll probably be a very loose video here going. Yeah. So where do dodo birds live or alive? Or dodo birds alive in the 1900s? Minimally. This is our homework for the week. This is the big project for the week, Zoe. Yes, this is the big one for the week. You might have another classwork assignment. Yes, technically, I get it. All of it's homework because we're all at home. But the point is, this is the big project for the week. I'm not going to assign another project until this one is done. So this is something we would have did in class anyway. So, well, not in class. You would have had this project anyway. Hello, Zane. How's your hair? Wait, like a video for the project? No. I thought you were talking about doing a conference call where you guys, it's like Zoom, but just not Zoom. I'm just going to do, we're not going to do a video ad. We're just going to do a paper-based one. It's going to be based in a newspaper. So it's just something a little quick and easy for me now. We've done too many video projects lately. I need a break. Okay. That is weird. Okay. No, it is weird. I get it. So, now is the time where I'm going to react to chat a little bit more often than I was. I tried to stay off of it as much as I could. I thought I did pretty well. Would you like to collaborate to produce Coffee Time with Norman live? We can probably do a collab later. Norman, we might be able to possibly do that. I have reached out to several teachers and different varying guests to do. I'm 6'3" now. Alec, you're lying. You're probably a solid 5'4". It's okay. Let's just call it what it is. So we're going to open it up to question and answer time. So if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, now's the time to go ahead in. This will probably be a little bit more fun so people can actually pay attention to this. Coffee with Rob. Thought about doing a vlog. Thought about doing a podcast. I don't know. Do you really want to hear apparently nobody wants to hear my voice all that much. So the idea of doing more and more and more of it seems a little bit excessive. So we're only at 33 viewers right now. So that just seems like a lot of work for a very small amount. Hello, Savannah. Okay. So ultimately, is 11:45 too early? Am I doing this too early? My little sister said her teacher uses Zoom. There, Exum. Okay. Haley Spickerman, best teacher. Oh, Haley. Both you and your brother are no longer at middle school. Oh. Best teacher ever. She's solid third best parliamentarian JHS I've ever had. Let's see. I saw a video of you playing the guitar with a Gatorade ball. This is true. Podcast. Sure. I mean, what would you want me to say? I mean, what can I do a podcast on? That's the struggle. That's what I got to figure out. This is late, not gonna lie. You saying 11:45 is too late? Do I have to do this earlier? I mean, I'm still the greatest teacher. Oh, thank you, Ella. Look at all these people from Blast from the Past. You could do a short weekly vlog giving updates. True. Day in the life of Mr. Robinson. I got a new truck. I sit around the house. I finished the office, so that's cool. Just kind of chilling. Oh, Schmuckelberg. That's never going away. That's funny. What do you say? No, please? No, it's not. Get philosophical. How about we go and read Plato's The Republic? And just kind of hang out. Okay? A lot of teachers do things at 10. So is 11:45 the right time? Let's go ahead and thumbs up in the chat if you think 11:45 is the right time. Thumbs down if you think it should be later. Smiley face if you think it should be earlier. Dog's doing fine. She's running around, being Lola. I keep her out of here because she likes to get into things and knock things down and cameras go flying. I think you could do a story podcast where you do a couple stories every week. I mean, I don't want to run out of stories, so I'd probably do one elongated story because I don't want to burn through all of my stories. Hello, Matthew. Good seeing you again. So, thumbs up says right time. Oh God. My arm just broke. I thought they were not supposed to melt in your hand. That's just a shame. Oh, 15 likes today. That's nice. I had 2 dislikes yesterday. That didn't hurt my feelings. I'm just kidding. It did hurt my feelings, though. Let's see. My brothers think it's funny when you do a live. Well, I don't see their teachers doing a live now, do they? Just kidding. I don't know. Some teachers just know how to do this. I just thought, well, that would be a good way to interact with human beings. Okay. Who could crack the code? Oh, Cooper. Sweet Cooper. I know you miss Hunter Walsh. Oh, Hunter. That crazy kid. The only kid I ever known to poop his pants while playing football. Okay. Alright, so, like I said, we can do, not necessarily I would say an Ask Me Anything, but let's keep it school appropriate, so we'll call it Ask Me Anything Reasonably, Responsibly, Anything. Tomorrow is the release date, correct? Who disliked the video? I don't know. It doesn't tell me who likes and dislikes things, so. Oh, man, I'm already at 2 dislikes now. Come on, y'all. I'm just kidding. 3 dislikes. Mine keeps up apparently slower. It's okay. All of you can dislike it. It doesn't bother me none. I could just turn it off, and then you can't like or dislike anything. It don't hurt my feelings, Zoe. He obviously misses Jordan. Of course. And then he didn't retract the video. No, it's okay. He was here yesterday. Okay. Thank you, Connor. You're so nice. I appreciate it. How's the baby doing? Baby's doing great. He seems like a... let's see. High school registration forms. Okay, so here's what you need to do. High school registration forms. Is grad venture canceled? Not going to answer that. I'll let the school answer that for me. High school registration forms, once and for all. You're going to take a picture of it or scan it, whichever, into your computer, whichever is easier for you. You're going to then email it to your guidance counselor. I forget exactly how the guidance counselors work out for you guys. I know A through L is either it's Miss Sherburne or Miss Parajan. Email it to one of them. They should be able to get it to where it needs to go. That's what I've been told. Email it to your guidance counselor. Either Miss Sherburne or Miss Parajan. One of the two. Just send it to one of them. We don't know if it'll be canceled yet. That is true. Let's see. Honestly, I've been waiting on a rematch. Super Smash Brothers. Ultimate. Look at that. A couple things about streaming you may not know. Okay, hold on. I liked your video yesterday and today. Oh, thank you, Tess. So flaky of you. What if your high school form isn't finished? Here's what I would do. I would just still check off all the items that you intend on taking and send it in because they're going to have to figure it out because I understand not everybody got all the signatures they needed. So I would just check off the ones that you intend on taking and keep realistic. You still need one signature from science. Like I said, just go ahead and sign up for it as is. If anything, they may reach out to the teacher with a list of names. Do you agree? Yes or no? and they'll sign off on that because it's just not practical as of right now. So we give our high school forms to Parashon or Sherburne, one of the two guidance counselors. There's two of them. Do online smash. That I don't think that's going to be a possibility, especially to stream anything on that because I don't have a video card or video capture card, and that's really expensive, and I don't feel like doing that for that, and I don't want it to look all janky by video camera on my screen, so that's all weird. Okay. So, any other questions? Because we're losing people. No one wants to hear about your high school registration forms, gang. Get philosophical. Get fun with this. Because I've got other things. Should I take be human? I'm not going to answer that live. I think you'd be fine. You forgot your signatures, Kathleen, but it's okay. 3 more people just jumped in. Hooray! If there's NJHS officers in here, I know I said we can meet tomorrow, but maybe we can meet today if we can figure this out. I would like to accelerate that process quickly so we can kind of come to a consensus. Tomorrow, the school will be posting the list of those who did get into NJHS. It's usually not the way we do this, but it's the only way we can do this for now, in a quick way. We got to talk. I have some ideas about next year's haunted house, and it'll be interesting. It doesn't have to be on stream. It'd just be an offline thing. If you can make an arena. Oh, okay. Well, anything I do would have to be live because I do the work for the people. Okay. Do you recommend AP Human? I do. I liked AP Human. There's some high schoolers in here who probably took AP Human. If you are a high schooler and you took AP Human and you like it, go ahead and put a like in the chat or whatever it is. I don't know how they say that. I'm not a super streamer. Will I fail? I don't think you'll fail. Most of my students in my advanced classes, you guys aren't. You guys are usually hard workers. It's not that hard. There you go. See? Oh, I missed the HH haunted house. Well, you could come and work on it if you wanted to. Just saying. It doesn't mean it doesn't seem that hard. It really isn't, guys. You guys a lot of times will play up to the fact that you guys think it's much more challenging than it really is. But it honestly isn't that bad. You guys will probably like it, if anything. Whew. Let's see, what time is it? 12:48. We've been on the stream for an hour. Well, I mean, technically the stream is going to go on for an hour and 40 minutes because of the timer, but man, it feels like I just did a whole class with only 32 people watching. It's almost like teaching one normal class, except what looks like about a good chunk of you are high schoolers who were just dropping in to see what's going on. But it's okay. Oh, it's Balin. Look at that. Wait, so when is the advertising project due? It is due Sunday night at 11:59 p.m. So Sunday, April 5th. Let me go ahead and type this in here so that way people can see. Ooh. Sunday, April 5th. I got something in front of my hands, which is why I'm typing so slow. 20. Oh, it's 2. 20. There we go. All right. Don't attack Haley, Matthew. I'll be nice to Haley. Poor Haley. I'm going to blast into school next year. I'm going to blast into the school next year, and I will help with the haunted house. All right, let's not use the word blast into the school. That sounds scary. Okay. No worries, Balin. Emery, Kathy, take math honors. You probably should. Is this video our attendance for the day? No, this is not your attendance for the day because not everybody can. I understand technologically, not everybody can make to it. Not everybody can get there. Your attendance for the day will be a discussion board that will be going on. That'll technically be due tomorrow because everything has to be due the next day. It's the whole to do with how Mr. Boyce wants things done. But there, you guys will see there's something posted. There will be something posted there, probably about 1 o'clock, or sorry, 1:15, 1:30, somewhere around there. Because after this, I have to actually go back and check something on Focus before we can move on. So, again, if there's any other questions, this is your chance. You guys can ask me whatever you guys really want. I have easily gotten dumber after middle school. Well, Zane, I mean, that did you think you were going to get smarter? Just thought. Okay. Alright. Let's go ahead and close this out. Click. Well, I gotta wait for this 20-second delay. It's always no fun. Granted, you guys seem... It's weird. I figured you'd be less shy in this format. Let's see. Where's my... Kathy Montanaro, you are the best teacher. That is incorrect. That's factually not correct. I should do... Now, that's the chewing thing where I just chew into a microphone and make weird noises. I figured I'd just do that now. Can you make that donut cupcake ice cream creation on the stream? I might have to do that. I need to go out and get donuts. I have the cupcakes. I have the ice. It's really sad. I have all those things on hand. I just don't have the donuts with me right this moment. I think it's more easy. It's more lazy than dumb. That's how I've always told my students. You mostly are just more lazy than you are dumb. Have I ever been nice to a student? Former high schoolers in the chat. Have I ever been nice to you guys? That'd be a good way to chat. I was never really nice to Haley or Zane. Either Spiegel and Schlim Muckelberg. I'm pretty consistent, Tess. Nice is a weird word too. I mean, I provide you a high quality education with some entertainment. It's pretty nice. I could be boring and mean. Now knock it out. That moment you realize that all the work you're doing is homework. It's true. Zane says I'm occasionally nice. Oh, this is weird. I have someone coming in on the chat. Chad Anderson, you're live.
Hey.
Hello, Chad Anderson. Why are you calling me during my stream? I'm letting you know you're live right now.
Say hi. How are you? How you doing? This live is great.
You're live right now.
Donut thing?
I think I'm going to do that donut thing.
Alright, you should.
Okay, good. So, the people here right here, right now, Chad Anderson thinks I should do the donut thing. I'm going to do it for charity. I got to find out how to do that.
It sounds really good. Sounds very fattening, but it's perfect for break.
Fattening. If you're already fat, it's not fattening. All right, thank you. I appreciate it, Chad. Thank you for coming on to Mr. Robinson Live.
Yep, you're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
That was Chad Anderson. He made it to the chat. Funny story about Chad. Many of my current students probably don't know. My son was born on August. What day was he born? Hashtag parenting goals. My son was born August 13th, 2018. 8/13/2018. We got to the hospital August 12th at about 9 o'clock. And he wasn't born until 7:14 a.m. It was early. And the odd thing is that Chad's mom was the nurse in the room that helped deliver my son. So her and I took a selfie in the hospital room and sent it to Chad saying, "Looks like your teacher won't be there today." And that was the first day of school. The donut thing we had discussed earlier is I'm going to make an ice cream mountain with a donut planet on top of it. If you don't know what a donut planet is, simply take a little mini cupcake, place it inside of the donut hole. You take that whole planet and set it on top of an ice cream mountain. And I guess we can do a video of me eating that. And then I will go on a 1-hour walk and I will vlog my walk experience so we can see Mr. Robinson eating something grossly unhealthy, only to follow it up with a little bit of exercise, which honestly, it just might not work. But we'll see. Hopefully that might bring some people in to watch. Let's see. 3 days before my birthday. Have fun. Yeah, we bought a house the week before. That was fun. Bought a house 7 days later, had a baby. And that was a life change. So sometimes you're nice. When you made me dance with Jordan though, no. Oh. See, now you brought that up. Now the world knows. So yeah, I did make you dance with Jordan. That was very amusing. But just think about it, Haley. I mean, sure, that's not really nice to you, but think how mean that was to Jordan, making him have to dance with you. Okay. I spun so much just to pick a side for a Socratic seminar. Man, I think... Now, chat, here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest with you, because there's not so many of you, so it's easy to be honest with you. How am I going to do a Socratic seminar when I'm only getting so many people to show up? Can't force them. You can't even peer pressure them because you're not even around them. But I think an online, digital, or a virtual, remote debate would be awesome, personally. I think that'd be a good idea. Wish someone took a video of that, Haley. Oh, don't worry. This has all been recorded. The actual dance moment? Yeah, that was unfortunate. That was not a proud moment for anybody in that room. Haley's got a new German boyfriend she danced with at homecoming. Oh, man. This is what happened when you have siblings in the chat. Just airing out all their unfortunate business. Ja, guten Tag. Why is my nickname Mom? Kathy, if you have to ask, come on now. You gotta talk a mom. Plus, your name's Kathy. It's the most mom name ever. Uh-oh. This sounds like I started sibling violence. So, because it is. Nick, I agree with Nick. I mean, Nick's Home Depot dad, so he's got an odd nickname. And I'm the Donut King. I was going to bring my Donut King banner home for the set, but I realized it's way entirely too big, and it would be very difficult to hang up in here, and it would destroy the entire room. My wife would kill me. So, I'm doing that. So, I'm looking for a list of candidates to come on the show live to bring the entertainment aspect of this, because the first hour is the educational part, and maybe the last half hour. Because if I stream, I want to probably stream for an hour and a half or so. And for that last half hour, it could be more of the entertainment portion of the show. I was thinking about bringing on some special teacher guests to appear live on the show. Showed Miss Rogers this. She's entirely embarrassed / jealous of how we're doing things here. Haley, please film if you do. That would be funny if you beat them up. Go ahead and film that. Send it to me in the NGHS, or the old NGHS chat. And we can go ahead and make that live one day. That would be amusing. At least you're on a croissant. Well, wait, your dad calls you Karen? Because that'd be hysterical. I mean, it's bad enough. If you have to ask why you're called Mom, mostly down to the fact that your dad had to help you pick out a hip-hop song because you didn't know any. Boop. Coca-Cola. Sorry, keeping it classy. This is my entertainment during quarantine. That's upsetting. I was also thinking about doing a TikTok. That was my lowest point. That's when I realized I'd been home too much. That would be upsetting. Damn. Dang. Down to 30. Not good. Okay, he actually does. Adios, Nick. Have a good day. He has other things to do. So, like I said... Oh, hold on. Olympia? That's embarrassing. That's an unfortunate situation. TikTok would be very embarrassing for me. I'm not a dancer. Not at all. Karina, that brings back memories from 4th and 5th grade. Which time? Because I have a feeling Karina did 4th or 5th grade at least once or twice, so you'd have to probably be specific on that one. You should do a TikTok. I see a lot of people. Papyrus no longer believes in you. Oh, that's weird. Let's see. So, anywho, guys. Well. Oh, why did this pop up? Well, that's not good. That's not what I wanted. Let's go back. Why is this on here? There we go. Well, that's weird. That moment when the wrong screen capture pops up. Alright, so Mr. Rob, I figured out how to do it without dancing. Is there a way you can do TikTok without dancing? I could become TikTok famous. That's clearly not my life goal here. Haley is sending you a video of her beating me up. Oh, there it is. Wow, real time. That is quite amusing. So, anyhow. Well, I'm just gonna sit here and kind of goof around. You guys could go ahead and leave here and go be about your business. You know, I just have nothing much better to do in my livelihood. Do anything. Well, why did you add a water can in the back bottom of the WebNet homepage? Okay, not sure what that means. Boo 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 boo. Stupid Renegade song. It probably was. I'm just playing Halo because that's what I want to do for just this month. Another class like, go ahead and click like and subscribe. Just myself. My keyboard and mouse of making a weird little island. I'm not very good at it. Oh, I should probably do this a little bit so I can actually hear. Ooh, this isn't gonna go well. Oh well, this is moving really slow. Oh, ooh, that was not good. That did. I don't notice it as much as you do. Boom, headshot. So it's not too bad. So hopefully we can sort this out and figure this out. But this is just to test it out, to see what would happen. Anyhow, well, we're going to bring this stream to a close. Oh, that wasn't good. Alright, guys, have a good day.